Hey, what's up guys, it's XRAYZ. Welcome to a new episode of Behind the Horror. This is episode 13, Rayz, 30 million death toll. Now I know that I said I was going to try to do these weekly, and that is the plan. We're going to have weekly Behind the Horror going up because we need to make sure we're done with this by the time that Black Ops 3 is out. So let's go ahead and jump straight into it. If you enjoyed the episode guys, leave a like, leave a favorite. Let's try to shoot for 500, maybe even 700 likes, guys. I know we can hit it. We do it all the time, so make sure to slap a like, show some support on the video. And of course, if you are new, if you enjoy content like this, guys, in-depth zombie content, the making of zombies, just the real-life stuff, then make sure to subscribe. As always, if you want to support the channel and get access to these videos earlier than everyone else, I'm trying to get these out a week early for my patrons. So if you want to be a patron, it's only $2 a month and you'll get access to all of my zombie videos earlier than everyone else, and it helps me out. So a link to that is in the description below. Now with that said, let's go ahead and jump straight into the story of Rayz. Now, Rayz was actually one of those love-hate relationship maps with the community. Some people loved it, other people hated it. It was definitely one of those maps that was very unique. It introduced verticality and, quite honestly, is probably one of the most heavily based maps off a real-life event. It's in the name of the map. It's in the structure of the map as well, and its biggest losses in humanity in the history of humankind when it came to death tolls. Now with that said, let's start off with the easy stuff. The name of the map is called The Great Leap Forward, which is a reference to an industrial revolution that was attempted in China, which ended up costing the lives of over 30 million people. There's a lot of references to the story within the map as well. One of the buildings actually in the map is called Mao's Tower, which is an actual building in China. You guys can see a side-by-side comparison here, so they're the same building and it's actually used in the map. The next thing is, of course, references to the Chinese culture. We've got the dragon that we see just outside the building, and we also have the dragon, obviously, that represents China. But with that said, let's go ahead and jump into the story. What was the Great Leap Forward and what exactly happened? The Great Leap Forward took place in 1958 and was Mao's attempt to modernize China's economy so that by 1988, China would be an economy that rivaled America. Mao had toured China and concluded that the Chinese people were capable of anything, and the two primary tasks that he felt they should target was industry and agriculture. Mao announced a second 5-year plan to last from 1958 to 1963. This plan was called the Great Leap Forward. The Great Leap Forward planned to develop agriculture and industry. Mao believed that both had to grow in order to allow the other to grow. Industry could only prosper if the workforce was well fed, while the agricultural workers needed industry to produce the modern tools needed for modernization. To allow for this, China was reformed into a series of communes. Everything seemed to have been flowing in the right direction. However, in 1959, things started to go wrong. Party officials would order the impossible, and commune leaders who knew what their communes was capable of doing or not could be charged if they complained. Quickly produced farm machinery produced in factories fell to pieces when used. Many thousands of workers were injured after working long hours and falling asleep at their jobs. Steel produced by the backyard furnaces was frequently too weak of any use and could not be used in construction, its original purpose. Buildings constructed by this substandard steel did not last long. And also the backyard production method had taken many workers away from their fields, so desperately needed food was not being harvested. Ironically, one of the key factors of the food production in China was the weather, and 1958 had particularly good weather for growing food. The excellent growing weather of 1958 was followed by a very poor growing year in 1959. Some parts of China were hit by floods, and in growing areas, drought was a major problem. The harvest for 1959 was 170 million tons of grain, well below what China needed at its most basic level. In parts of China, starvation occurred. 1960 had even worse weather than 1959. The harvest of 1960 was 144 million tons. 9 million people are thought to have starved to death in 1960 alone. Many millions were left desperately ill as a result of a lack of food. The government had to introduce rationing. This put people on the most minimal of food, and between 1959 and 1962, it is thought that 20 million people died of starvation or disease related to starvation. The Great Leap Forward was the deadliest famine in the history of China and in the history of the world. Not all deaths during the Great Leap were from starvation. It is estimated that at least 2.5 million people were beaten or tortured to death, and 1 to 3 million committed suicide. Now, one of the craziest things about this that I learned as I was doing research is that at the time, the leaders were trying to save face with the rest of the world. So even though the Chinese people barely had any food, especially the lower class, to feed themselves, all this food was actually being sent out of China to try to make it look like they weren't going through any kind of economical or agricultural struggle. So most of the food that was being produced that they needed, the bare minimum, was being sent to other countries instead of being kept at home where it was needed for them to be able to produce even more food. It was after all the famine, after all the diseases, after this great failure, that finally there was a change in leadership and China was actually set in the right direction. It's kind of crazy to think that this huge ambition of making China this huge modernized country ended up in the loss of over 30 million people. But anyways, that is what XRAYZ was based off. It's got the same buildings, it has the same name, The Great Leap Forward. It's definitely one of those maps that very heavily borrowed from its real life historical counterpart. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, guys. I just wanted to get as much information as I could in here. Some of these are actual real life losses, and honestly some of these are based off some pretty mind-blowing historical facts. But anyways, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. Once again, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like, leave a favorite. Hopefully you guys did learn something, and support the video. It does get the content out there. Shares the video around. And of course, if you are new, if you enjoy zombie content, especially in-depth stuff like this where it's even tied to real life stuff, then make sure to subscribe. I do upload these as often as I can, and usually they're pretty good. But anyways, guys, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Once again, if you want to see content like this earlier than everyone else, it's only $2 a month and it does help out the channel, so make sure to check out my Patreon page. A link will be in the description below. And of course, if you want to talk more zombies, if you found something, or you just want to discuss or just talk with me, Twitter is the best place to do so. Link in the description below. I'll see you guys next time. I'm XRAYZ out. Peace.